All right. Are you guys able to see this now? All right. Thank goodness. So open it up as a tab in Excel. And you guys were right. This was the first CTF to get through this, right? So, all right, cool. Thanks for everyone for joining. Apologies for, the slow start or getting started on this, but really excited to talk about this stuff. My name is Chris Haller. I absolutely love, talking about CTFs, how we do and leverage CTFs for ourselves. Um, So in particular, what we want to be able to do is to use CTFs for us as ways to enhance our skill set and make ourselves more, uh, lucrative to employers, right? I know I've been in a position where, as a junior guy working in cyber, it was really uh, worrisome to see all these skills and the way people use these skills and watch them do this stuff. So it's really exciting for us to be able to go into these scenarios like a capture the flag event, and then it forces us to actually go through and learn our skill sets, and forces us to know our tools inside and out and how to leverage them properly. And then beyond that, not just using a tool in a vacuum, but how do we apply all these different tools together to solve problems? So as far as today, what we're going to talk about is a little bit about myself. I'll introduce myself, what I do, what my background is. We'll talk about the problem and how, a lot of people that get certified in cyber really have a hard time relaying that into getting actually hired. And then we'll talk about CTFs and why they're so important and how they help bridge that gap. And then we'll talk about getting started on CTFs and how you do that. So I did put this title as, the missing link between training and employment. So, put a little bit of that human evolution picture in here. So really excited to talk about this stuff. So myself, my name is Chris Haller. I am a GSE. I just got certified as GSE number 329 back in January. Super proud of that one. I've been working on it for about 5 years or so. So that was a culmination of many different, goals I've set for a while. So really excited about that. I did 11 years in the Navy. 8 of those were active duty. 4 of those years, I was at the Navy Cyber Defense Operations Command. I was the incident management leading petty officer, and we were responding to any classified or unclassified computer incident on Navy networks globally. It was a ton of fun. I learned a lot. I'm also really glad I'm not doing it anymore because it was very stressful, but very thankful for that opportunity. And realistically, that's what launched my career in cyber. That was where I got my first taste of what a CTF was as well, back in 2018 or so. I've been completely hooked since, and I've been doing CTFs for about 5 years or so. Absolutely love it. It's a phenomenal way for us to build our skill sets and provide more value to employers. Along with that, I'm also the U.S. Cyber Team Red versus Blue coach. This is a team that is an initiative from CISA directly, where we take a bunch of younger cyber athletes and we go compete in international events across the globe. So if that's something you're interested in helping to volunteer with, let me know. More than happy to talk about that stuff and get more people involved. So really excited to do that. I do a lot of other CTFs. It's tons of fun. I really like speaking, talking about this kind of stuff and different types of, technical things and how we can get direct and very specific value from that kind of practical stuff from these talks. And I love mentoring people as well, teaching them how to, go further, provide more value, and be more, more useful and learn and grow. So if we get into our problem, specifically, what we know is that there's a disconnect between cyber training and hiring. And, this isn't a secret. This is something everybody knows about, where there's, 1.1 million unfilled cyber jobs or something like that. And that's going to increase by 300,000 million% over the next 10 years, right? From my perspective, the disconnect is because all of the cyber training, or a significant majority of cyber training that's available today, is almost entirely theoretical. So it's just these concepts and how these concepts are involved with cybersecurity, but there's no actual application of those concepts. There's no real hands-on technical implementation and technical usage of those concepts. So what we end up seeing is a lot of people where they go through, get a bachelor's, get a master's, whatever certs, whatever acronym cert that you can think of. And then they get asked to sit down and, for example, let's zip up a folder with PowerShell with just PowerShell. And they sit there for 2 hours and can't figure out how to zip up a folder on PowerShell. Like, how are you going to say that you're a cyber expert when you can't do something like that? Right. So that's where, from my perspective, I see this lack of practical experience being such a huge gap and such a huge issue with getting people, directly into getting started and getting hired. Along with that, there's a very rapidly evolving cyber landscape, and we get brand new technologies every few years. A lot of training, especially universities, their training materials can last up to 10 years sometimes. Some universities still, teach looking through, different memory captures from Windows XP or something along those lines, right? And, realistically, that's not very applicable today or not. And then we really want to make sure that we can break into cyber by proving our value directly to employers and showing them, that we can actually do this job and do it very effectively. And along with that, cyber crimes accelerating. There was a 147% increase in initial access brokers from the last year. This was in the SANS Evolution of Cyber Criminal Operations in 2023. I have that link down here below. Specifically, cyber crime's not going anywhere. It's getting much more commoditized. So we can expect that we're going to need to be having these skills, and we're going to need to prove them in order to get hired. So as far as our goal, what we want to do, obviously we want to get hired. A lot of people specifically, when we're making that transition from military to cyber, it can be really difficult to, directly prove that value to employers. Like, our backgrounds from what we did, like what I did at NCDoc is great. That looks phenomenal. A lot of this is also, we want to build confidence in employers and show them that we know what we're doing and how we do it. So our main goal is we want to get hired, right? We want to be able to provide for our family and do these kinds of things and continue our career. A secondary goal that we have with using CTFs is we can build critical skills. This allows us to become very effective at our jobs and what we do, and become lethal in how we do and execute these operations. So by learning how to do this work on CTFs, we get very comfortable understanding how to solve problems that we may be uncomfortable with. It builds a lot of curiosity and a methodology on testing something or understanding how we're going to approach something. And then, usually this results in us conducting our own research. We learn some new technique or some new tool, and then we start taking more time to look deeper into it and conducting personal research that we can publish. And, not only does that help us stand out for an employer, but it also helps the overall InfoSec community with them understanding, the kind of research you did and help other people build off of it. So there's a ton of benefits and a lot of really great stuff. Again, we are going beyond theory, right? So it's not just, hey, this is how something's supposed to work. This is how this is actually applied in the real world and how we actually do these types of activities on a computer and protect a network or evaluate risk. One thing in particular that we do have to talk about is the imposter syndrome. This is prevalent everywhere. If you don't feel the imposter syndrome, I believe personally that you're at this earlier side of the Dunning-Kruger peak here. So specifically, I feel it every day. I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, am I actually here? Do I know what I'm doing? How do I prove this? Right. So this Dunning-Kruger diagram really helps show people that, as we gain more knowledge, our confidence gap does go up a little bit, but we never reach that peak that we originally had. And how do we build our confidence further while also building our skills at the same time? And a lot of time when we're doing something like incident response, we really don't get a chance to practice that unless an incident occurs. And, I like to practice and get ready for things that actually happen before they actually happen. So using something like a CTF or some kind of scenario that's already built and has solutions we can draw from helps us build that methodology and understand how we use our tools and how they leverage can be leveraged in that specific way. So let's get into capture the flags, right? There's a lot of really good benefits. The three I'm going to talk about in particular are going to be hands-on skill development, team collaboration, and then resume enhancement. So this, like I've been saying a few times, this forces us to know our tools. It forces us to actually understand and apply them in an environment instead of just, oh, this is how it's supposed to work, right? So in a CTF environment, we're given an objective. We're given, either a file or a website, something along those lines. And generally, it's just this black box. And inside of this black box, there's a flag that proves that you got access to it. So specifically, what we do is, hey, if I hand you this box, which has a flag inside of it, honestly, I don't care how you open that box or how you get that flag out of it. All I care is that you got access to that flag and that you were able to do it. So there's a lot of creativity, and it does rely on a lot of research, a lot of Googling activity, and then there's usually going to be a lot of struggle with solving these kind of problems. And that's important because the struggle is really where we learn the most. We do want to put in some work. That way, we're not just asking questions all day long to people that spend or built these problems. We want to put in our work, try to understand and figure out how to solve these problems on our own, because that's where we really learn the most, right? Contrasting this with lab environments, a lab environment, we're given very specific instructions on how to solve a problem. Generally, they're very rigid and they don't involve a lot of creativity on how to solve the problem. It's just follow this list of tasks, and it doesn't really foster any kind of innovation on how to use the tool or how to learn to use it, deeper at a deeper level. It's just here, type this in, type that in, copy this, put that. And, like anybody can follow a list of commands, right? But we want to be able to really know our tools so that we can apply them at a professional level, right? So something like bin walk. How do we use bin walk when we're trying to search for additional file headers in a file, right? Anybody can say, oh, bin walk just extracts files, right? Great. Okay. But how do we do that? Can you do that, right? If I give you this file that has, 5 other images that are embedded inside of this file, can you use binwalk and actually pull out those images and show me? Another benefit is the teamwork. And like we all know, teamwork makes the dream work, right? So I love competitions like the National Cyber League, where I get to compete with 7 other individuals in my school, and we get to go through and actually work together to solve all these problems. And there's a lot of very involved discussions and communications about how we're interpreting a question, how we're approaching a specific problem, what this means. And, the more we struggle together, the more we learn together. So it's a lot of fun. It really builds a lot of this kind of communication abilities for us to be able to solve problems, especially with ones that have very specific time windows for us to solve, because it's, very quick. Like we have to be able to go back and forth and really work through things fast and efficiently. This does build effective communications that we can show and provide to employers. And then resume enhancement. Um, when we hand a resume in, let's say you get the Sec Plus, hand it in, you're going to be sitting among 200 other people that have Sec Plus on their resume. What makes you special? What is going to make you stand out specifically, right? Why are you different? And why should they choose you? So specifically, we want to make sure that we put CTFs on our resume because it stands out. It's something different and it shows that we do the hands-on stuff and that we have that creativity and we actually know our tools. Along with that, a lot of employers have a CTF that they've built themselves that they provide to resume or applicants, right? And so they provide this and they say, hey, I'm giving you this activity, and how do we specifically go through and prove that you can work through this, and you can prove that you can write a report or you can find this problem, and that we can actually move on to the next portion of the hiring, right? So that's something that we see very common right now with a lot of hiring, where we actually get into solving problems in order to move on to the next stage of a hiring process. All right, I'm getting a few things in the chat here. So how do you reflect CTFs on the resume? So yeah, there's a lot of really good things we can put in there. So specifically with the things like NCL, the National Cyber League, we do want to talk about, why we did it, how it showed, how we work together as a team, and different areas that we put in. As far as CTFs that I put on my resume, it's going to be a lot of the higher visibility ones, or ones where I learned a lot from, and that if someone asked me, I could speak a lot more to, like some of the Hack the Box ones. Like, hey, I absolutely love Hack the Box. I learned a ton from it. I actually built my own machine on Hack the Box because I loved, the community so much, and I wanted to see how people would solve my machine that I put together. And I love your advice too, John, that putting them into the skills section or under projects really does go a long way. And like we're talking about, if you're a junior guy, if you only have Sec Plus or A Plus on your resume, we want to stand out the most ways possible, right? All right, so we have a lot of starting resources. This is only 3 of them. These are my 3 favorite. We have the Pico CTF, which is Carnegie Mellon, I believe. Specifically, what we do is, this is entry-level stuff. It's designed for high schoolers. Don't let that fool you, though. Even though it says it's designed for high schoolers, it can get very difficult and very complicated. So they do start out very straightforward, and it provides a lot of information about, here's how to solve these things. They do have write-ups with most of these challenges as well, which talk through, here's how to solve this problem. Here's how to approach it. Here's my thought process on it. So I do recommend taking a look at that one. Try Hack Me is one of my favorites too. That is, they have a set of different rooms where we can learn specific things, and they're very good about introducing us to new concepts and helping us to work our way into those concepts and understand them further. There's also various learning paths. We can go down red team, blue team, all this like SOC operator stuff. So they have some pretty entry-level stuff to some pretty advanced stuff. Definitely recommend them as well. And then obviously, Hack the Box is a classic. 4 or 5 years ago when Hack the Box was getting started, it was just like the machines. And man, I started doing them, and they were hard. Like, they were hard. They were listed as easy, and I just couldn't figure out what to do. I felt totally lost. Thankfully, they have the Hack the Box Academy now, where they actually go into very specific introductory modules and some very easy machines where they actually have walkthroughs of the specific commands to run to, enumerate, identify vulnerabilities, and then attack those vulnerabilities. So they've come a very long way over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's definitely, it can be a very beginner-friendly platform now as well. So again, we have that imposter syndrome. It really, really sucks getting started because, you feel like you know what you're doing, and then you get thrown into doing a CTF where you have to prove, you gained access to something, and you totally end up sucking at the start. I totally did. It was very demoralizing to understand, like, oh my God, like I got my CISSP, I got all these other certs, and like I can't figure this stuff out. Like, am I even supposed to be here? Why am I here? So I really like this quote where sucking at something is the first step to becoming sort of good at something. And again, the struggle is really where we learn the most. Um, there's a whole offset, try harder mantra, which I like. And I want to try harder, but we also want to try smarter too. Like, we shouldn't be spinning our wheels too much, and we should definitely know when we need to ask for help. And when we ask for help, there's always things like write-ups, right? So write-ups are important because what they do is they help us understand how to solve a specific problem in a CTF, or how a problem was approached and why they approached it that way. So this lets us learn and understand what we missed in a specific problem or a specific question. What worked, what didn't, what other methodologies could we apply or use next time? And then also, how do we approach this problem prior to solving it for future times, or if we see something similar? Write-ups are also very important for us to keep for ourselves personally, because this helps us keep great notes on how we solved a problem and how we, proved it, and how we showed that we gained access to something, or did a specific action. I reference my CTF notes all the time in new CTFs that I'm doing. I'm constantly pulling back, seeing, what kind of actions I took, why I took them. And then I actually end up using a lot of my CTF notes in the field. I do pen testing, so I'm constantly, reaching out to specific commands or switches I did to accomplish a specific goal that I see in a production environment as well, and I'll do that. And then beyond that, we can actually publish our write-ups as well, and then that can prove value to employers directly, where we show them, hey, here's my thought process on how I did this work, and I open it up to everyone. So Chris had a question: are write-ups shown at the end of a CTF, or are write-ups done by us? Great question. So specifically, it really depends on the CTF. Some CTF places, they will publish their own write-ups or their own methodologies on how they built and how to solve the challenges. Most of them, what they do is they rely on the community to provide those write-ups. CTF Time does a really good job on publishing and hosting write-ups for other people. I could definitely, I'll put that in the chat as well, as CTF Time. And then, for things like Hack the Box, it's a very popular platform, and people will actually go through and write up their entire process on hacking a machine. Excuse me one sec. Okay. So yeah, this one in particular is going to be a recon for my Provise box that I built. Sorry, my throat's getting all nuts. So this does go through and show, their thought process and how they did it. And there's a lot of very fun holiday CTFs that come up, and we can work through in the holidays as well. Really excited for KringleCon. That's a lot of fun. No, I'm sorry, everyone. So, as far as starting, just do it. Just get started. Like we established, it's going to be really hard when you first get started, because there's going to be a lot of learning very fast that you're going to have to figure out. So, in the PowerPoint presentation, before I exported this to PDF, we did have Shia LaBeouf screaming, doing his whole "just do it" thing in this GIF. But read the write-ups and publish your own. Really get started. Find a mentor and ask questions. Don't get caught in the analysis paralysis. Lots of great resources. Again, Google everything and as many things as you can. Super important, phenomenal stuff. I'm not doing the VetSecCon CTF. I'm pretty busy right now with work. And yeah, Robert, thank you. Hack the Box does have built-in platform write-ups for retired boxes, so I definitely would recommend doing that. And if you want to go further, there's always the DEF CON CTFs, where we can earn a black badge at DEF CON. These are very difficult and very involved CTFs. Again, I'd still recommend doing it because you learn something every time you do it. And I did talk a little bit about the U.S. Cyber Games, where I'm the Red versus Blue coach. Specifically, if you're under 25, you can apply to be an athlete for the U.S. Cyber Games as well. Give me a DM or something if you're interested in that. But yeah, let's get uncomfortable. Let's get learning. We want to deal with the struggle and actually grow. When we're doing these CTFs, improve our effectiveness to employers. So, any questions? So, Chris, you did say, is CyberAid for CTFs write-ups? Specifically, it's more for learning specific scenarios or specific techniques. Would definitely recommend it. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I really apologize. My voice has been going nuts. I don't know what's going on, but really hope you learned something. And again, apologize for getting started a little late figuring out the whole sharing thing, but I'm glad we did it. But yeah, please reach out if you have any questions. More than happy to answer this. Love doing this stuff. Yeah, thanks for showing up. I'll hang out for a few more minutes if any other questions show up as well. Yeah, and Chris asked a question: would you be willing to share one or more write-ups, usually on GitHub? And I think I do have a few on GitHub. I'm not sure if I do have them on GitHub. There's a lot of really good ones, and Robert brought up a really good point about Hack the Box having tons of write-ups. A lot of people publish them on their own websites or their own blogs as well, which I would definitely recommend taking a peek at. And Brandon asked if I use the Slack as well. I do. So you can just look me up as Chris Haller on Slack. I'm usually hanging out in that memes channel. It's pretty fantastic and some of the spiciest memes that I'll share with my friends. Excellent. So yeah, thanks everyone. I really appreciate your time. Hope you learned a lot. And again, please reach out anytime. More than happy to chat about this stuff. All right. Thanks. Have a good weekend.